Hello, welcome to the email marketing webinar. Just going to start in a few moments. For anyone that doesn't know who we are, we're a marketing company and we focus on the electrical, fire and security sectors. Everything I'm going to show you is things we do ourselves and for our customers, so things we know work really well. Okay, let's get started. I'm going to share my screen so we can show you through a few things, a few slides I've put together. Hopefully everyone can see that all right. Let's move this out of the way. Just going to hide the little prompt thing that I always get as well. Okay, so the idea behind this webinar is to talk about email because a lot of companies don't use it. A lot of companies worry that if they use email, they'll be perceived as sending out spam to their customers or their prospective customers, and people won't like them as a result. Email done the right way is a fantastic way of marketing your company, of keeping in touch with your customers and generating new inquiries. So what I'm going to look at today is the right way of doing email. There's a few things I want to cover. First of all, why email? Why is email so good? The types of email campaign that we find work the best. How you set up your email domain and your email sending in a way that it won't end up in somebody's spam folder, which is very easy to do if you're sending out lots of emails. How to create an email campaign and some email software you can use, sort of the main types of software and how to go and set them up as well. So why email? Very simply, everybody has an email address. If I wanted to send out a message to one of my customers, the first thought I would have is to put it on an email. The second one would be on a text message. The good thing about an email is I can put more detail in there and more information. I can put attachments and so on, whereas a text message is short. So everybody has an email address. Everybody's looking at it every day. It's a great way of keeping in touch with people. You can also use email to communicate with a lot of people quickly. And it's an active form of marketing. So rather than sitting and waiting for someone to come to you, for someone to come and find your website and then fill in a contact form with email, you can go out there and look for more business, which is great if work is a bit quiet and you're trying to increase the number of inquiries you want, or later on in the year around about September, October time, things will quieten down, then you can plan an email marketing campaign to give yourself a bit of a boost when that time comes. Lastly, email is low cost. It's one of the cheapest forms of marketing there is. So the types of email campaigns that we find work best in the sectors we work in, there's several. Let me just find a little pointer. Excuse me. First of all, cold prospecting, where a company you've never dealt with before, a local company, someone that you know of, who the person to contact there is, you could send them a completely cold email introducing your business, telling them more about what you do and so on. One of the best email campaigns that we use is what we call database reactivation. So you're going to have a database of your past customers, people that have used you in the past few years. Chances are you've lost touch with some of those. And one of the easiest ways of getting a bit more work is to send an email out to all those past customers, everyone that's dealt with you in the past, just to remind them of who you are, maybe give them an offer, maybe they'll offer a discount off your services or show them something that they can do at the moment that will really help them, to give them a reason to contact you right now. When you make an appointment with somebody to go and visit them, to give a quote, an appointment confirmation email is great because it A, reminds them that you'll be coming, and B, tells them a bit more about who you are, what you do, and you can follow it up with, after you've seen them, a quote follow-up email that sells your company a bit more, just tells them a bit more about who you are, what you do, that the good points about your business, maybe gives them a few reviews of local people, local companies you've worked with. With all these email campaigns, I'm focusing on them being automated. So I'm not saying for one moment that you arrange an appointment with somebody and then you sit there and type out an email. It takes too long to do that. Everything here is automated. So everything I'm going to be showing you is putting together an email campaign that you click a button and it happens automatically without any thinking about it. When you've got a new customer, a happy customer, and they've been, you've I don't know, installed a CTV system 2 or 3 weeks ago, it's very effective to send out a couple of emails to them to say, hope you're happy with everything. Any problems, please get in touch with me. And if you are happy, would you mind leaving us a quick review? And then give them a link to go over to Google and leave a review for you. Also to ask them if there's anyone they know that might have an interest in your services, maybe offer them an Amazon gift voucher, maybe say to them, we'll give you a £25, a £50 gift voucher if you refer anyone to us. But again, very effective done via email. Another good one we like is what we call lost customer email campaigns. So everybody loses customers. Whether you give a quote and you're too expensive, or you had a customer for a period of time and then they decided to go somewhere else because someone else is a bit cheaper. There's all those companies that you had some kind of contact with in the past, which you're probably doing nothing with at the moment, and you've got email addresses and names for them. And it's very effective to start sending out an occasional email to them, reminding them who you are, talking about some of the good points that you have, on the basis that sooner or later, their current supplier is likely to make a mistake. Maybe their prices will go up, something like that. And that old customer will start looking around for alternatives. And if you're there and present in their mind, there's a good chance they'll contact you and say, look, we dealt with you 5 years ago. We're not very happy with who we've been using since. Could we have another chat and see what you can do for us? I do tend to separate commercial from domestic campaigns, because I think there's a very different sort of requirement between the two. If you think about commercial, the work tends to be higher value. There's often multiple decision makers, and the decision process can take months, even years on some very, very big jobs. So with an email campaign to commercial customers, we're not looking for a quick decision or anything else. There's no point offering a 10% discount if you decide this month, something like that. The types of campaigns we use there are a cold prospecting one, where local businesses, we want to let them know who our customer is and their services and so on, and just keep them sort of front of mind in case a requirement comes along. What we call nurture campaigns, where our customer has spoken to a company in the past, and we just want to keep reminding them about our customer. We want to keep telling them about some new projects they've been working on the basis it may take a year to make a decision on the thing they're interested in, the thing they've had a quote on. But we want to just keep reminding them month by month that our customer is there and our customer is doing this good project, that good project, having some good reviews coming in and so on. And also with commercial, and it's linked with our sort of nurture campaigns, is multiple follow-ups. So when you do a quote, it needs to be followed up lots of times. Now, all of these can be done individually in a single email, but they work best if you write what I always think of as the perfect email. You get the best wording for your email, and then you use that as a template again and again and again, and you automate it so it doesn't get forgotten. Because the danger is you do a quote for a big job today, next week you're doing a quote for another job, and the week after another job, and so on, and you forget about the one that was done today, and it won't get decided on for another 6 months. But if you've got an automated follow-up nurture sequence of emails going on, then that customer is reminded about you continually, so they don't sort of forget about you when they're getting other quotes from other people. Domestic's a bit different. Domestic often is a quick decision. Often it's going to be, I need to get some new lights fitted in my garden. I'm looking around, I'm going to get 2 or 3 quotes and pick between a combination of pricing and the company I think will do a good job at it. But they're going to decide within 3 or 4 weeks. It's not going to be, well, next year I'm going to get some lights in my garden, so I'll start looking today for it. People don't do that on the domestic side in the main. It's a quick decision. The sorts of email campaigns we use for a domestic tend to be appointment reminders, because private people tend to be worse at keeping appointments. So they'll arrange an appointment for next Tuesday, and then they'll forget about it and they won't contact you to let you know they're not going to be available. So just reminders when they book the appointment, a few days later, and possibly an hour or 2 beforehand of the appointment, just so they don't forget all about it. Quote follow-up, so you send a quote out, day after an email goes out, hope you received the quote, any questions, please give me a call. 2 or 3 days after that, another email goes out. If you're interested, here are 1 or 2 other jobs similar to yours we've been doing in the local area, just to keep a continual sort of reminder going to them. Yes, you could pick up the phone and keep on phoning them, but in all likelihood, you're going to be too busy doing other things. So if you've got an automated sequence of emails going out, it just reminds them who you are, what you're offering, and everything else. And if they are going to get 2 or 3 other quotes, the likelihood that they'll use you is much higher if they keep hearing from you and keep hearing good things about you. Special offers are a great one for the domestic side because people always have work that needs doing. There's always going to be a job that needs doing. And when times are tough financially, people will put that off. They'll think, well, this, I need to, I've got to, the fuse keeps going. I need to do something about it. Well, it's not too bad because I just keep on resetting it all the time. 6 months time, when I've got a bit of spare money, then I'll have a look at it. But if an email comes through saying, this month we're giving 10% off, 20% off, would you like a free quote for any work you need doing? There's a little bit more of a motivation to say, well, okay, I'll get them to come out, have a look, give me a price, and see how it is. And once you've had the opportunity to go out and see what the problem is and give a quote, then you're in a far stronger position to get the work than if you're just leaving it until the customer is completely ready. With any type of email, the key thing is to have a good database. And the types of contacts that go into database, to my mind, are obviously all your current customers. There's always something you can be saying to your current customers. Your past customers, those that haven't used you in the last 12 months. So those ones that maybe they were domestic, it was a one-off job, or commercial, they've used you before and possibly they're now using somebody else. But you're not entirely sure what's going on there. There's obviously an ongoing need, but you're not getting the work. The customers you've lost, so those that have used you maybe for a maintenance contract on your fire alarms, and someone's come in cheaper and they decided to move over to them instead. So there's a database of those lost customers. The inquiries and quotes that came in but never led to any work. And then local companies and what I call niche prospects. So let's say you're particularly good at EV chargers. Now you might decide to target all the local rental companies in your area that are managing blocks of flats on the basis that sooner or later they might start getting EV chargers fitted into the car parks, as an example. So with a database, we tend to break it into several categories and then target each one in a different way. So current customers, what we're trying to do there is to keep them keep them updated with what you're doing and remind them, that if they've not used you for a while, that you're there, that you've got these services, these other services they've never used before, because often someone will use you for, say, CCTV, but won't realize you also do access control, intruder alarms, and everything else. So it's reminding the current customers of all the different things you do. Past customers, just keeping your business in their mind all the time, so they sort of think of you when there's a requirement. Lost customers, well, it's a more, here's an offer, come back to us, we'll give you a discount, we'll do this for you, we'll do that for you. And with each type of sort of category of database, we're tailoring our messaging to their requirements, to what they're looking for and what they need. Now, there's 3 challenges to success with email. The first one is actually reaching somebody's inbox. If you send a single email from Outlook, from Google's Mail, something like that, it will normally get there. If you start sending 100, 200, 300 emails in one go, spam filters will start looking at them. And if everything isn't done correctly, they'll start marking them as spam. And once Microsoft's filters are looking at them and saying they're spam, then it will be across a number of different email addresses, and suddenly whole blocks won't get through. So reaching someone's email inbox is the first challenge to email success. The second one is getting the message read, getting someone to actually open the email, read it, and make some kind of decision based on that. And the third one is then getting them to reply to you, either reply to the email or reply by making a phone call to you. So I'm going to go through those sort of 3 areas in a bit more detail and show you how we handle them. First of all, email delivery. This is just a screenshot of my inbox. This was taken some weeks ago now. And it was a typical spam emails. Everyone gets the same things. And you know, all of these are in my junk box. I'm not going to look at any of them. You know, this one here, UK Manufacturing and Supply Chain Expo, maybe that's a good thing, but it's not actually got into my inbox. So it's in the junk mail in amongst lots and lots of other emails that are generally rubbish, and I'm not going to look at, I'm just going to delete them. So we've got to avoid the emails going into somebody's junk folder. One of the reasons so many of these do go into junk is the way they're sent. So this is one of those emails, and the biggest problem is this this person, Jacob Chewiner. I know I've used him as an example on a previous webinar I've done, so apologies if you've seen this one already. So his email address is me@jacobchewiner.net, but he sent it through an email software called mlsend.com, whatever that is. So the email hasn't come from him, it's come from this email address. Outlook and every other email software program straight away looks at that and says, well, there's something dodgy about this. It's probably spam. It's not come from the person. It's come from somewhere else pretending to be the person. Then within the actual email itself, there's all these long links here, which are tracking links. And if I were to click on one of those, it would tell this person, assuming it's a real person, that I've opened the email, read the email, clicked on the link. But your email software looks at those links and straight away says, well, it's probably a marketing email. It's probably a spam email. We'll move it over to junk mail. And then, you know, if you want to read it, you can go and get it there. So we need to avoid this. We need to avoid emails ending up in junk. Your domain has an effect on how successful email is as well, in terms of getting into the inbox. Older domains are better. So if you've had your email domain for 5 years, 10 years, that's fantastic. Also, trustworthy domain suffixes, so the .com, .co.uk are far better than some of the modern ones like .website and .marketing, that type of thing. There's also 3 domain records which often aren't set up, but if you're sending lots of emails, are very important. They're called the SPF, DKIM, and DMARC. These 3 records are designed to prove to the person receiving an email that you're not sending out a phishing email, a spam email, that you are, the person that's sending the email is a real person. It's coming from a real email address. It's not something dodgy. SPF is Sender Policy Framework. DKIM is Domain Keys Identified Mail, and DMARC is Domain Message Authentication Record. I can't remember what the C stands for. But they're all 3 records are designed to verify that the email is a proper email. There's a good little tool if you want to check on your own one that we use. It's called mxtoolbox.com. If you just go to mxtoolbox.com, and what you can do is you can put in, I'll just do it on ours to show you what it looks like. You can put in your domain name. They've got in this little drop down here, there's SPF, DKIM, DMARC. So if I click on that one and then click on the button, and it checks it's been set up correctly. So in this case, it's come up green, so it's all set up correctly. And it's all this is doing here is saying that we're sending from these 2 email servers. And if at the other end, the inbox receives an email from one of those 2, then it's all okay. It's a very quick way of just checking. And you can do the same with the other 2 with DKIM and DMARC on there as well. If these things haven't been set up, then it's relatively straightforward to do. This bit of software does actually tell you what the settings should be. And you need to log into your domain, into the DNS settings on your domain, and then you can change them in there. So email content is the next part of getting into an inbox. No spam in the subject line is absolutely key. You mustn't use words like money, free, exclamation marks, capitals. Not any of those things in the subject line will straight away or very, very likely land you in the junk folder. Also need to avoid spam words and phrases in content. So again, the same sorts of words like free and special offer, you have to use them very, very carefully and not repeat them. We take the rule of the absolute minimum number of links. So in an email, we don't really want more than one link, because every extra link you put into an email increases the likelihood it will be marked as spam. Images are a problem as well, and I'll show you why in a moment, but we tend to try and avoid images wherever possible in the email. And also, it's a simple one, but just keeping the font size normal. Some people have this habit of putting very large fonts in emails thinking that it'll get noticed. It doesn't, it just gets marked as spam instead. I mentioned MX Toolbox as a good way to check your domain's okay. There's another bit of online software we use, which is called Mail Genius, which actually checks that the email you're sending is going to get delivered and avoid spam. Here we are. All you have to do, so it's mailgenius.com. All you have to do is, when you've written an email you're going to use, send it to this address here. So you click on here to copy this email address, send your email to that address. When you've done it, click on the See Your Score button. It takes about 20 or 30 seconds, and then you'll get a report on this page, which will tell you all about the email that's sent. It will give you a score out of 100 in terms of the likelihood it will be delivered to an inbox. It will show you if there's any problems in your email. So it'll actually show you things like too many spam words in the content, in the subject line. It will tell you whether all those DNS records are set up correctly. And when we're using this for our customers, we're looking to get at least 99 out of 100. 90 is not good enough. You know, you need to be 99 or 100 to get a reliable delivery every single time, which is not that hard if everything is done correctly, if the email's written, you know, in a natural person-to-person way, and all the domain settings and so on are set up. So moving on to creating an email campaign. And I'm just going to give you a bit of an overview of sort of 3 campaigns that we tend to use quite a lot. So database reactivation, cold prospecting, and then an appointment confirmation and follow-up. Every email campaign is going to be different in terms of the language, in terms of what you're offering and talking about and so on. So I'm going to try and give you some general ideas on what works well within these sorts of campaigns. First of all, database reactivation. So this is a campaign going out to all past customers. Maybe that can be limited by all past customers that aren't actively using you now or haven't actively used you in the last 6 months. And what we're going to do there is a monthly email, probably going to include some special offers, maybe 10% discount, or maybe a fixed charge for let's say it's residential, for a CCTV system to be installed. We're probably going to ask for referrals as part of the emails. Do you know anybody else that might use our services? That type of thing. Cold prospecting. So this is where you found some local companies you'd like to talk to, you think you could offer a good service to. With them, we'd probably send 3 emails over 2 weeks. And the reason for 3 emails is that the likelihood of the first one being read is low, just because it's very easy to delete emails, to swipe on a phone or whatever. But if there's a second one and a third one, and they're spread out over a 2-week period, there's a far higher chance that one of those 3 will get read. Definitely going to be personalized, and that's true of any email we send. It's going to be, dear James, we're local to you, and I thought we might be able to help ABC Residential to do X, Y, and Z, something like that. With cold prospecting, for commercial work, LinkedIn is very effective as well. So with some customers, we work on an email campaign, but we'll also couple it with a LinkedIn campaign as well. So requesting connection and then a couple of messages through LinkedIn, and the two can work quite well together. I'm not going to go into how to use LinkedIn for the purposes of this, just to stick with email, but it is something that can be done. The last sort of campaign as an example would be an appointment one. So you arrange an appointment with somebody, an email, a text confirmation goes out, and this is automatic, not someone having to type it. This is done automatically. As soon as you mark it as an appointment, a confirmation goes out. The day before, a reminder email goes out. an hour before a text reminder, possibly rather than an email reminder, goes out. And then after the appointment, a follow-up email goes out. So all of these things here are completely automated. So no one has to click buttons for anything to happen. This whole system, this whole sequence here is done automatically with no one having to think about it. I'll show you how software handles that in a few minutes. Before I do that, let's have a quick look at email success. What makes it work? A good subject line is key because you need someone to actually open the email, obviously. Personalization, so dear James, talking about their company, talking about their location. We're based in Chichester, something like that. Short and to the point and no spammy words. Long emails don't work. If it's paragraph after paragraph, no one's going to read it. And you do see a lot of emails these days as a trend. I think it's a US trend where you'll get line after line of text, but they're all split up with a space between. There'll be one line, then there'll be a space, and another line and a space. And it will be a great big long email with one line of text and then a space in between. It doesn't work. People aren't going to read that. Most of the time, the emails, well, not most of the time, maybe 50 to 60% of the time, emails are going to be read on a phone. So you've got to be thinking to yourself, well, if someone's looking at it on a phone, they're only going to see a small part of it. So I've got to make sure the point I'm trying to make, the key elements of my email are right there on the screen and they can see them straight away. As I mentioned before, use images very, very carefully. And the email needs to look like it was written from one person to another. So as though I've sat down on my computer and typed an email out to this person, this one person, nobody else. So they think it's come from me to them. In reality, I'm using that same text template to a lot of different companies, but it needs to look as though it's come from me to that person and nobody else. And lastly, a call to action. A do this next step. We want to get a reply. We're not trying to send out emails for the sake of sending out emails. We're trying to do something, whether it be call us and we'll give you a free quote, whether it be refer somebody else to us if you know anybody that might have a use for our services. We're trying to have a reason to do something else. We need to give that at the end. So the way we approach email is to create what we call email sequences. So I did allude before about sending out multiple emails, sending out a cold campaign of 3 emails and so on. And my rule of thumb is never send one email, never ever send one email, because it's too easy to miss or ignore. You know how it is, you're out and about, the email comes in on your phone, you glance at it, you delete it because it's not what you're looking for. If you send one, you've likely been overlooked. If you send several, there's a far higher chance that it will get read. But there is that balance because you don't want to be viewed as spam. So you're trying to find the balance between sending out several, but not being considered spam and annoying. And we do that in several ways. We do multi-step campaigns, maybe 3 emails over 2 weeks to someone you've never ever spoken to before. Maybe monthly messages to past customers, just kind of reminding them what you can do, offering discounts, that type of thing. And possibly seasonal emails. We're getting towards the winter. Nights are getting darker. People are starting to think more about security, more about outdoor lighting, that type of thing. So a seasonal related email. The way the sequences work, and this is a screenshot from some software we use, and I'll show you some other software as well. But the principle behind them all is the same, that you're setting up a sequence and then you're pressing a start button and then you're leaving it to do its thing. So this one, as an example, and I'll show you some text ideas on it in a moment. The first email is going out, and this is considered, let's assume this is a database reactivation email. So all these people you've dealt with in the past, haven't spoken to for a while. So it's a first email saying, you know, hello, hope you're all okay, maybe a special offer. Then it's going to wait for 2 weeks. And then the software is going to send out a second email, just you know, hi again, hope all is well. Maybe talk about one of your services in a bit more detail, maybe talk about an interesting project you've worked on recently, something like that. Then it's going to wait for a month. And then a third email. And maybe in there, it'll talk again about the special offer you're offering. Maybe it'll ask if there's anyone they can refer to you and offer a gift voucher if they do that, something like that. And then maybe another wait, and then something else. But it's a sequence. It's aimed to be infrequent enough not to be annoying. So the first two are only 2 weeks apart because you've not spoken to this company for a period of time, but thereafter a month apart. Because if you get one short email a month from a company that you're happy with, that you've worked with in the past, chances are you aren't going to consider that to be annoying spam, especially if they're offering something that might be of use to you, making a suggestion that might help you, something like that. In terms of the text, so here's an example, a database reactivation type campaign, and it's personalized. Hi, James, I've not heard from you in a while. Hope all is well. With the weather improving, we're doing some outdoor lighting projects, offering past customers 10%. If you'd like a quote for something you're planning to do now or later, just reply to this email and I'll get in touch. So just a nice opening hello, a little offer, and then a call to action, a reply to this email, something like that. So that's the first email. A couple of weeks later, second email goes out. Similar sort of thing, hi James, emailed a couple of weeks ago about a 10% discount, talking about an Amazon voucher for referring work over to you, talking about your company and what you do in terms of services, maybe focusing on one particular service if there's some seasonality to what you're offering at the moment, and then a call to action at the end. If you'd like a free quote for any work, please get in touch. Third email, maybe that would give some examples of recent jobs you've done, something like that. But it's a sequence. It's not one email. It's 3, 4, 5 emails, each one a bit different. But with all of them, you're writing the messages in one go, and you're setting it up to send automatically. It's not as though you're sitting there and then writing this email, and then you're writing this email. You're writing them all at once, so they work together in a sequence. And you're sorting out what you think will be the best period to wait between each one. And then you're hitting a button and forgetting about it and letting it do its work. And possibly you're going to put something in there that says, if someone replies, then stop sending these emails, something like that. So let me talk about how you actually go about sending emails. So the way we organize the sending of emails and the software that does it and so on. I've mentioned automating things a couple of times, and I think it's key that everything you do, you automate it and then quite literally forget about it. So you have to set it up right in the beginning, and then it can run on its own. If you're forever having to keep going in and tweak and change and everything else, it doesn't work. And this is really true of any type of marketing. It should be automated and then just get on with generating inquiries for you. So whether it be the website, whether it be advertising, whatever, all areas of marketing should be automated, and then you can forget about it so long as inquiries are coming in, so long as the emails are generating replies, then everything's going well. If they're not generating replies, then you have a look at them and see, what's not working, and you make some tweaks and some changes. But other than that, you just leave it alone and let it do its stuff. To do that, you need some email software. So Microsoft Outlook, Google's Mail aren't good enough for this. You can do a mail shot from Outlook. You can import a load of email addresses and do it like that, but it's not really designed for that. It's not a very efficient way of doing it. There's various different software tools that do it. Just a few examples here. MailChimp's quite a common one. And just an idea on pricing, MailChimp charge about $23 a month. A campaign monitor, £29 a month. There's a French company called Lemlist, which is about $59 a month, and one called Woodpecker, depending on how many, between about $39 and $44. Personally, I favor Lemlist. I know it's the most expensive, but for me, the key thing in any email software is that the email is delivered. And we've tried a lot over the years, and we do find that the likes of Campaign Monitor, MailChimp, Constant Contact, all those other sort of off-the-shelf systems, the big ones, don't work very well. And the reason they don't work very well is that they're used so much by people sending out what are spam emails. The recipients mark them as spam, and then the IP address, so the actual address that the emails are being sent from, get marked as spam on the junk mail filters. And then for everybody else, it's very hard to get emails sent out. So we have found in the past that these two and all the others like them, and it's not just them, are far more difficult to get an email delivered with than a smaller one such as Lemlist or Woodpecker, who are bespoke, but they're much smaller companies, so they're less used by the mass spammers that cause problems for everybody. When you're sending an email, you have to avoid images. I've mentioned that a couple of times, and here's why. So this is an email that came to me earlier in the week, ended up in my junk folder, and this is how it looks in the junk folders. And there's a few things here. I mean, the company name is in capitals, which is straight away a flag of spam. The email address is okay-ish. They've used a subdomain here. So this person, Emma, whoever she is, her email address isn't emma@direct.europages.co.uk. It's probably emma@europages.co.uk, but they've, she's changed it for the purposes of sending this. And the reason being that she's using some email software, and I don't know what software she is using, but you can see here. So this link here, maybe it's an image, but it's a tracked image. So if I click on this, it goes to mlink.europages.com. So something on their website, and this long list of characters and letters and numbers and so on is tracking, so that then it will be linked back to me. So this email was sent to me. If I click on that link there, then in a bit of software somewhere, the person looking at it will be able to see that I have opened and clicked on this email. So this email has ended up in my junk folder just because of the way it's sent, and it doesn't help having capital letters. It doesn't help having these great big long tracked links. And I did say about trying to limit links in an email to as few as possible, one ideally at most. Moving the email over to my inbox, you can see what's going on with it. So there's obviously an image that would have been here, but I use Outlook, and Outlook blocks images by default, which is the reason I said don't use images. There's obviously a couple of more images down here, but again, they've been blocked. And I'm left with what is a very spammy looking email. There's a standard thing with lots of these email softwares, with MailChimp and so on, to send an email like this. It's got a gray border around the edge. The email's in the middle. It's got big buttons and so on. And that's not how real people send emails. If I'm going to send an email to somebody, I'm going to type it on my computer and I'm going to click on send. It's going to be, dear Fred, from Chris, that kind of thing. It's not going to have it all centered. It's not going to have gray around the edge. It is very obviously a mass email, and I can look at this and I can know straight away it's a mass email and delete it without worrying. Whereas if it's actually written from somebody to me, then I've actually got to read the text to be sure it's, it could be a friend of mine, it could be something that I need to know, a bit of useful information. So we always send emails out written as though it's from one person to another person. In terms of this sort of tracking, and let me just talk about that. With any email software, you can track what's going on. So you can track the opens, the number of people that open and look at the email. And the way that's done is there's a tiny image which is embedded at the bottom of the email. And when you open the email on your phone or you open it up on your computer, that image is downloaded from the internet and it feeds back to the software and says, I've been opened. So it's a hidden image at the very bottom. You can also track the number of people that click on the links in the email. So this link here is a tracked link, as I mentioned before. And with most software, you've got an option to turn on tracking number of opens, turn on tracking clicks, and then you can look at a list of all the people that opened your email, all the people that clicked on it. It seems like a good idea. The problem being, though, that the moment you do have these things turned on, it makes the email a lot more spammy and a lot more likely to end up in a junk folder. We, as a general rule, don't ever track what's going on with the emails we've sent. We're more interested in having a really good, well-written email that's going to end up in somebody's email inbox that they're likely to respond to, than knowing that 45% of people opened it and these 100 here clicked on a link and went to a website or whatever. We're using email to generate inquiries, not to get people to click on links. The link clicking is never very accurate anyway, because lots of spam software, lots of antivirus software will just click on links anyway to check that they're all okay. So email tracking is an option in all the types of software I've mentioned, but personally, I'm not a big fan of it. I'll just show you how you you set up an email sequence. And this is using our software, but it's very much the same with the others, with Lemlist and so on. The actual mechanics behind it are very similar with all the different types of software. So our one, so this is the campaign I mentioned before, database reactivation campaign. So the first thing is the first email, and it's set up to go from me, and then an email address, chris@abcelectrical.com. And then we've got a subject line. And then down here, we've got the text from that example email I showed you earlier on. And there's personalization built in. So it's saying hi, and then it's using the first name of my contact. And then at the bottom, it's got my email signature. So that's the first thing, is it's set that email to go out. Then we're telling it to wait for 2 weeks, only send the email between Monday and Friday, office hours, just to be sure it's going to the right time of the day. We don't want it going out at weekends and nighttime, etc. And then the second email will go out in much the same way. So it's going from me, whatever subject line we decide on, personalized again, dear James. Quite good if you can to actually get the customer's company name in there as well. So you could, let's say it's a cold campaign, you could say that we're based near to you, and I'm often driving past ABC Residential on my way to work and thought, something like that, some kind of a personalization, rather than it just being a very bland email. The more personalized, the better, the more effective they are. So there's our second email template. Then after that, we've got wait for another month. And then we've got a third one. And with all the main email software, you set it up in the same way. You set up, an email, a wait period, another email, another wait period, and so on. And a lot of them you can put other actions in, such as if someone replies, then notify me they've replied, things like that. But this is, in its most basics, the way it's set up and the way it works with all of them. In terms of the software, as I mentioned before, oops, there we go. They all work. For the extra few dollars a month, for my money, if you're going to do an email campaign and do it regularly, I'd be inclined to go for Lemlist. They're a funny company. It's a French company, and they like their emojis and their smileys and all those sorts of things. They get a bit carried away with them. But the software is fantastic, and it's very easy to use and set up. I just wouldn't really be going with this with these sorts of company. Okay, so let me just get back to where I was. Just summing up on what I've covered then, and this has really been trying to give you a sort of a high level overview of how we use email, what works with email, and the way of doing it to get the best results. Hopefully you're sort of sold on the why email, which is that we all have email addresses. It's a fantastic and very underused form of marketing. It's used by the spammers. It's used by the big companies like John Lewis and Marks and Spencers and so on, that are sending out emails with new clothes and all that sort of thing. But it's not used very much in a business-to-business environment in a non-spammy way. Yes, all get emails all the time about ranking #1 in search engines and borrowing more money and all kinds of different things from the big spammers, but not by people offering a real service in a personalized, customized way. I've covered the types of campaigns, and look, there's lots of different campaigns you can send, but the key is to do two things. One is to segment your database into areas. So you've got past customers, those that haven't used you for maybe the last in the last 12 months. You've got your current customers. You've got local businesses you'd like to work with. Maybe you've got some niche companies around the country that that you in a particular sector that you're very good at. You'd like to work with schools, colleges, whatever it may be. All of these different sort of segments of your database, you split them up. So you end up with maybe 4 or 5 different segments. And then for each, you work out what you want to say to them. So you think about the ideal customer within that segment, the person you're trying to write to, and you put together a sequence of emails aimed at that person. So rather than just trying to write to all property developers about what you can do, you think about one that you know and you write to him, and it's "Dear James, da 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 da," and then you use that template and assume if it works for him, it will work for all the others. And then you personalize it by using "Dear" and then the person's first name, maybe mentioning their company name and so on. But you create a series of different campaigns. You do the sort of the proper setup in terms of make sure your domain is set up, send some test emails to that Mail Genius address I showed to make sure they are going to get through and not be marked as spam, that your words are okay, that the way your domain is set up is all okay, and delivery is going to work. And then you create a campaign using an email campaign using the messages you've put together, and you do it in a multi-step sequence. So you're not doing one, you're not writing one email, you're writing 3 or 4 emails, and one leads on to another, leads on to another, and then you're working out how far apart. And if it's a company you've never spoken to before or haven't spoken to for a long time, I do it in quite a short time space, so maybe over 2 weeks, maybe 3 emails over 2 weeks. If it's a past customer, a current customer, I do it on a longer time space, and I'd be thinking, about once a month, once every 3 weeks, probably no more frequently than that. So they're just being reminded of you for when the time is right. Because the goal, I think, with email is to be able to contact lots of people on a regular basis, so that every so often one of them will raise their hand and say, "I'm interested, I've got a requirement for what you're offering." And it's a fantastic way of doing that. It's an active way of doing that. You're not sitting back waiting for the phone to ring, for someone to contact you. You're going out there and telling lots of people what you can do, what you're offering, and waiting for, every so often one of them will say, "Yep, I'm interested. Tell me more. Give me a quote," that type of thing. And then lastly, the email software. And yes, there's different options. And I'm sure if you search online for email software, it will come up with loads. The only one we recommend is Lemlist, because we've used it and we found it to be very good and robust. But by all means, shop around. There's bound to be some cheaper options. It is the most expensive of the kind of the main ones out there. It's I think $59 a month. The software we use is really only used sort of for our customers, so it's not a kind of a commercially available one. But they're all very, very similar in terms of the way the actual sequences are built up. And whatever you go with, test it, send some emails from the software to Mail Genius, test them for spam, make sure they're going to get delivered, test them to yourself, test them to work colleagues and so on, to make sure the emails actually get through. Hopefully that all makes sense. It's a big subject, and I was trying not to get too tied up with going through the actual text of emails. I gave a couple of examples, but rather than trying to say, this is what you say on the first line, the second line, and so on. If you've got any questions, then by all means get in touch. Phone number is on there, and my email address. And as I often sort of say at the end of these webinars, if you'd like a bit more help with your current marketing, with your online marketing, if you'd like a free review of what you're doing, go to our website, electricalmarketers.co.uk/review, and just fill in your details there, and schedule a time for a chat on the phone. And we're more than happy to have a little look at what you're doing at the moment and give you some suggestions, some ideas on what could be done in the future to improve things. Hopefully that was all good. Hopefully that was useful, and hopefully you'll be able to use that in your business to actually start generating more inquiries with email. Thanks very much for joining me.